What's up, dudes? Today we're going to be putting a floor in a boat. I have yet to do a video that's kind of geared toward just flooring a boat. At least I don't think, not too many videos now. But that's what I'm going to be doing, and I thought about, showing me doing this and also going over, some of your options with flooring a boat and some pros and cons of each. A buddy of mine saw me a little clip I did of putting a floor in this little boat behind me, my latest project, and he said, man, I need to do that to my boat. And I was giving him all the information, and next thing you know, I'm gonna end up doing the project for him, which I don't mind doing. I don't mind helping my friends out, and also I kind of like messing with boats if you guys have not picked up on that yet. But that's what we're gonna be doing today. We're putting a 1/8" aluminum floor in a 1648 Grizzly Tracker. Like I said, I'd like to go over some of your options with doing a floor. Now, your most common options are gonna be wood and aluminum, and both have their pros and cons. We'll start off with wood. Wood is a lot cheaper. You can get a 4x8 sheet of plywood from Lowe's or Home Depot for like 40 to 60 bucks. I would say 1/2 inch thickness if you're doing a floor. You might be able to get away with a little bit thinner than that as long as you put foam up under it. So you think about it, you got like your rib here and a rib here, and you have a void in the bottom of your boat. So if you step there, it might be a little weak. If you put foam under there all the way up, it's not going to be weak anymore. But I would recommend putting foam in your boat regardless, because it's just going to help you out in the long run. You're adding weight to the boat. That foam could come in handy if the worst situation is to rear its head. But there's nothing wrong with using wood in your boat. Obviously, the biggest con to wood is it's not going to last. You can do several things to try and make it last longer. A lot of people use like a Thompson's water seal on it. Some people do epoxy. In the past, I've used fiberglass resin. You can just put a coat of oil-based paint, or you can just throw it in there and go about your business. You don't have to do anything. It just won't last as long. One thing I will point out is make sure you don't get pressure treated. You can get marine grade, or what I've used in the past is just like an outdoor grade. Pressure treated has like a chemical in it that will react negatively with your aluminum. It'll actually corrode and rot it out, and that's not going to be good. So stay away from pressure treated. Like I said, marine grade, outdoor grade, or even just, regular plywood will be fine. I will say another con of using plywood is I personally wouldn't put HydroTurf on top of plywood. HydroTurf or EVA foam, I use the umbrella term for HydroTurf. HydroTurf is a brand, kind of like Band-Aid. Everybody calls them Band-Aids, but Band-Aid is an actual brand. HydroTurf EVA foam is like a sponge. So if it gets wet, it's going to saturate, soak up all that water, and it's going to sit down at the bottom where it's on that plywood. I don't feel like you're going to get as good of an adhesion on wood versus metal. I could be wrong. If I was doing it, I would say maybe put a heavy coat of resin or epoxy and scuff it up real good. Clean it real good with acetone before you lay it. I don't know. Your best bet is to find someone that has done it like a year or two ago or more and ask them how it's held up. I would just be cautious of doing it. Obviously, if you put carpet on wood, it's going to act as a sponge too and could, deteriorate the glue and come up over time. But the thing about it is carpet's a lot cheaper than HydroTurf. So before you go spending the money on HydroTurf, do some digging around and see if you can find somebody that has tried that before and maybe their method of, making it work. I would say another con of using wood, really your only option of securing it down to your ribs is going to be some kind of screws. Stainless steel screws suck. They're so hard to drill through without breaking or stripping out. So you're really going to have to take your time. I mean, obviously, anytime you're messing with a aluminum boat, the best hardware to use is aluminum, but aluminum is super soft and you're going to go through a crap load of screws. So that's another thing to kind of think about. Now with aluminum, obviously the biggest con of it is price. I actually looked at Ryerson Metals. That's where I've gotten a lot of my aluminum from in the past. 4x8 sheet of 125 or 1/8 inch is $351. A 4x8 sheet of 100 is $303, and that's if you go pick it up. And maybe you don't have a Ryerson Metals around you, you're probably not going to want to get this stuff shipped to your house because it's going to be super costly. Just check around. If you don't have a Ryerson Metals or any kind of place like that, One thing you could do is maybe go to a local welder or fabrication shop, see if they can add a couple sheets of aluminum to their next order, and you can just pay them outright. I mean, they might have a little charge for that, but it might be a lot cheaper than having some aluminum shipped to you. One big misconception about aluminum over wood is that aluminum is lighter. And actually, I looked it up. A 4x8 sheet of 1/2-inch plywood weighs 45 pounds. A 4x8 sheet of 1/8 aluminum weighs 57 pounds. You can get by with 100, but it's still 45 pounds. So it's the exact same weight for 0.10 aluminum versus 1/2-inch plywood. So I'm not saying that's a con on aluminum, but a lot of people just automatically assume that aluminum is a lot more lightweight. Now, where you can probably gain a lot of weight with aluminum is with your framing. So if you're going to do a wood floor and a wood deck, I would suggest, if you're trying to keep your boat as light as possible, maybe you can't afford aluminum sheet or you just can't come across it, try to go, I mean, Lowe's and Home Depot both have a lot of angle and square tubing aluminum. Frame your deck out with aluminum. That'll save you some weight there. And it'll be one less thing you have to replace down the road. Now, there's also some other options. You have plastic and you have composite, where I can't remember what the letters for it, but it's like a real thin sheet of aluminum and it's some kind of plastic and then another real thin sheet of aluminum. Kind of an old school way to do boats. I haven't used it. I've come across boats that have, had that before. I haven't really run into any negative stuff about it. The hard thing is coming by it. I want to say a lot of sign shops use those boards, so you might be able to check there for some materials. And another thing with the composite, the plastic stuff, I can't get that stuff around here. That's why I haven't used it personally. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Not 100% sure how well HydroTurf would stick to something that's like poly, some kind of plastic. But like I said, the only way I could get it is to ship it. Then I'll be in the same rut as I was talking about, is the shipping is ridiculous on that stuff. So check around if you can find some of that stuff. Yeah, try it and use it for your boat. I don't see why it would be anything wrong with it. Another thing I'd like to point out is the street signs. Y'all seen me cut that corner before. It absolutely will work. The street signs are right at 100, the same thickness as, I just talked about, that I've been putting in a lot of my boats. But if you're talking about a real big span, that's going to be a very big sign. You don't want to really patch in a bunch of signs to make a boat floor work, because you'll end up having soft spots where they meet. Now, if you can join it on the ribs, you can get away with that. But I just wouldn't trust doing a whole bunch of signs for the floor of a boat. I think you'd be better off with one solid sheet. I've probably missed some stuff, and you guys watch my videos. I'm not like trying to preach, the gospel of this is what you have to do and these are all the rules. This is just some stuff that I've run across in the past. By all means, there's nothing wrong with using wood on your boat floor. I'm not going to snub my nose at you, and if anybody else does, they're stupid. I mean, get out there. If you're just wanting to get out there, just do what you can. Like I said, I'm just trying to throw a little bit of information out there while I'm doing this floor. The pros and cons. Obviously, the biggest con of wood is it's not going to last. The biggest con of aluminum is it's harder to get and freaking expensive. So there you have it. This floor is going to be 1/8 inch. My friend Jacob only had one sheet of 1/8 inch left. That's what Andy wanted to go with. That's what I'm using. Like I said, if you can get by with 100, as long as you put foam under it, it's going to be fine and you won't have any problems. All right, I'm running my mouth. I don't want this video to be too long, but let's go ahead and take a look at Andy's boat and we'll get to work on this thing. Well, like I said, we have a 1648 Grizzly Tracker. He had a 30 horse Mercury tiller on it. He went ahead and ordered him a Yamaha, I think a 50 horse tiller handle, and he took the motor off, the Mercury off, and he had this jack plate put on just the other day. But like I said, this is it. I really like the design of this boat. Not a fan of Tracker boats. They don't use the thickest aluminum, but maybe this one's different. I don't know. It's a 2002. This one seems to be in very good shape. I don't think Andy uses it just a whole lot though. But anyhow, here's what we got going on. And unfortunately, as you see, we got a gap on each side. And what sucks about that is this is a 4-foot across piece of plywood. So I'm not gonna, and the only way to make it, you know, edge to edge is to run a filler piece, and we don't have enough metal for that. So we're going to try to get as close as we can, like he did before, and hopefully our hydro turf, we can make it come all the way and cover any kind of little boo-boos. But like I said, this is it. He's got some kind of flooring in it. I'm not sure. It looks to be 1/2 inch. He had it screwed down to the ribs, and it's got like a little filler up front. You know, he had no foam up under it. So hopefully we can knock this out. Like I said, I'm going to use this piece of wood for a template. Like I said, it's already like a 4x8 sheet. If my metal happens to be a little bit larger, you know, it'll work out for us. And I think it's almost 8 foot long. I want to say it was like 83 and 5/8 or something. So I'm going to get it a little bit longer because we do have a gap front and back. So maybe exactly 8 foot will work perfectly. All right, anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and take this out, and we'll start working on that foam. I'm going to show you guys something. Tape measure all the way up front, measuring to this piece right here. Right here we got basically 83 3/4. Show you guys how out of square this thing is. And I don't think it's this panel right here either, because it looks like it's coming over this rib the same amount on both sides. And over here on this side, we got, you know, maybe 82 7/8. And you can kind of tell right here, you got a little more of a gap. The thing about it is up here, flush on this side, gap on that side. I don't know, man. I'm just not a fan of tracker boats. Don't get me wrong, if you've got one and you love it, you know, I'm not trashing your boat, but I've personally owned 2 tracker boats, and man, they just, both of them were kind of just garbage. So, you know, I'm not trying to sway nobody's opinion, but probably the least favorite John boat or utility boats I've owned is tracker boats. All right, anyhow, just wanted to show you guys that. So right here, these are off a little bit, so I took me a marker to let me know to cut it a little bit more on this side, but then add it on this side. You see my 2 marks? Did that all the way down. Some of these aren't that bad, like this one right here, how it's touching the rib, so I'm gonna take a little more out right here, but I'm gonna add some to this side of it. I did that all the way around, and that way I can use this as a template, and when we're done, it's gonna fit a little bit better. Like I said, we're gonna have some gaps regardless, because each side has this gap like this, but hopefully we're gonna run our foam all the way across, so the foam will come up, and then even though this is short, we'll run the hydro turf from side to side. You don't want your metal floor touching the outside part of your boat anyways. Vibrations over time could end up leading to a hole. Holes in boats, not very good. All right, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and take this out, set it on my metal I got over there, use it as a template, but before then, we're gonna go ahead and start cutting this foam. All right, for this foam, you wanna use closed cell foam. It's basically like garage door insulation foam. You find it at Lowe's and Home Depot. What you want to do is just put you a straight edge across your braces. Best way to do it. And then just put you a tape on there and get what measurement it is. Like this one is a little over 1.5 inches in the center, and over here on the edges where it bumps up a little bit for the brace, it's right at 1.5 inches. So basically 1.5 inches. All of them are different. You come into some oddball sizes every once in a while. But just get you a measurement, even pull like from several different spots in the boat, make sure it's even. And you just take your measurement, and if you're lucky, you can find the exact width on one sheet of the foam. Or if you're unlucky like me, I went to 2 different Home Depots and they was all sold out. So I needed 1.5 inches. What they end up doing is getting 1 inch and then 1/2 inch. So it's gonna be like double work, because I'm gonna have to cut everything twice. But as you see, we got 1.5 inches once we get them both put in there. Like I said, they actually sell this in 1.5 inches thick. They just were out of stock at 2 different Home Depots. So we're gonna have to run one all the way down and then go on top of it. And you gotta remember, your boat is shaped like this, so you can't just use the same measurements. So we're gonna have to lay one down all the way and then come back and remeasure it again, because the second one's probably gonna be a little bit wider. As far as cutting this foam, man, it's simple. All you need is a straight edge, your tape measure, like a Sharpie marker. And I use these little cheap, little extendable razor knives you get like from Harbor Freight for like $1 or whatever. You can push it all the way out where it's long. If you're cutting really thick stuff, these come in handy because you can cut it all in once without trying to have to break it or flip it over and cut the bottom part. It's super simple doing this foam. All you do is just pull you a measurement for your width, and then if you've got a smaller John boat, you'll do you a measurement, you know, from the bottom to the bottom, and there you go. You got your rectangle to cut out. This boat, since it is over 4 foot, I'm going to have to probably cut all my pieces in the middle. I'm just going to take a width measurement and cut them all out, and then I'll go back and cut them in the middle, and then put me a filler piece in to make it come all the way to the edge. All right, let's knock this out. All right, I got all these laid in. Like I said, it's a little short on each end, but this is the bottom layer, so it should be fine. And these ribs, you can see they kind of come up, so it gets a little higher. So I went in and notched all of them until they were flush all the way across. And I mean, that ain't gonna be seen either. This next piece is gonna go all the way, you know, a lot closer to the edge. So I think it's gonna be fine. Like I said, I didn't splice these either, because I mean, these are pretty close. I mean, maybe it's ½ inch too narrow, but up here at the front, it was actually, I had to cut some off of this front piece. Anyhow, I just want to show you guys, if you run into a problem like this, just notch it out. I mean, ain't none of this got to be perfect. You know, we'll get it a little bit closer, hopefully, with our aluminum, or if you're doing wood, and then HydroTurf will cover up all of our boo-boos. We'll Bob Ross it, if you will. All right, we'll go ahead and get this next layer laid down, and then we'll start working on the aluminum, cutting it out. I was talking about, we got a gap all the way down, well, till you get right here. So what I'm gonna do now is go in and cut me some little pieces. That way we got coverage all the way across. This is what it looks like. Kind of brought it out to the edge of the boat as far as I can. I think that's going to look pretty good. So all this is gonna be covered up anyways. Not anything to stress out about of how your foam looks, because like I said, you're gonna cover it up. All right, cut these little strips and we move on to that metal. All right. Well, we got it all in, and it's looking pretty good. At least, you know, my opinion. Sorry about this wind today, guys. It's like tornado, gale force winds going on. I'm sure this audio is going to be awful, but I already got the old wood laid up here. Back into the garage while I can talk a little bit. Maybe it won't be so bad with wind. So I'm kind of lucked out on this deal because I already have a template. I'll show you guys how to make a template if you don't have a previous floor to go by. Now this was going to be a little bit short, just like this 4x8 sheet of wood was a little short, because I mean literally 4x8 sheet of aluminum. The only other way to do it is like 2 or 3 pieces, and we only have 1 sheet of aluminum. That's, my buddy only had 1 sheet of, well, 125, so that's going to have to work for us. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Like I said, we'll cover up any little bad spots with the HydroTurf. Hopefully we'll try to take our time a little bit on it and make it look pretty good. Like I said, I'm just going to trace out this one on the aluminum, and that's the best I can do. And I'll go ahead and show right now. Probably not going to do a voiceover, but you'll see what I'm doing. You can just take a lot of cardboard scraps and make a template for your boat all the way around, and just do, I mean, you don't have to be a solid sheet. You just make sure you duct tape it up real good, and that way when you move it, it's not going to like move. Your pieces aren't going to move around. It's going to stay consistent. I've done that before in the past. Like I said, I'll show you real quick what I'm talking about. All right, y'all kind of get the gist of it, right? You just put 1 piece in, notch it out where it needs to go, then you can lay your next piece in, get it flat where it needs to go up there. And once you get it cut out, which I mean, I know I did an ugly job of this, but I don't have to use it. Get it where it needs to go, then you tape them together. So you put another piece, you know, across the front if you have to, and then do your sides, and then you just make sure you get in there and tape it all together, and it'll give you a good template to use. All right. Anyhow, cut this metal out. All right, I got it all notched out. I kind of tried to fix the little boo-boos that was on there, get everything a little bit better lined up. And the way I cut out aluminum is with a jigsaw. And I will say, stay away from these blades right here. These metal cutting blades. Aluminum is just so soft, as you see how it's like all the teeth are clogged up. Because aluminum, like I said, aluminum is so soft it gets stuck in there. This is a Bosch thick metal, and you can see it's basically the same way. What I found that works pretty good with aluminum is just a wood cutting blade. Aluminum's soft enough to where, you know, it's not going to break the teeth on the blade. Also, the wood teeth blades are like spaced out enough and aggressive enough to where it won't clog them up as bad. I might try these since this is 1/8 inch. I'm usually cutting like 100. Since these are 1/8 inch, I might try one of these just to see how it does. If it starts clogging up on me real bad with these, I'm going to go to a wood bit and finish it out with that. All right, remember your eye protection, because the aluminum shard in the eye is not good, and it's not magnetic either, so it's going to be fun trip to the doctor's office for them trying to get it out. All right, could have done a little bit better on some of these, but I don't have to trim none of them. I think it's the first time I ever put a floor in where I didn't have to go back and trim it 18,000 times. So what I'm going to do now, since this floor has like almost like a valley in the middle of it, I'm going to start in the middle, drilling my holes, and then rivet it in. I'm going to use 3/16 countersink rivets for this. You can use screws if you want to. I would just say, you know, stainless steel screws for one. They're hard to drill in without them breaking. And another thing, just a lot of vibration over time will probably back them out. Even though you have hydroturf, you might end up with some little mounds here and there where them screws are trying to back out of the hydroturf. I'm just kind of assuming again, but you know, just to be on the safe side, that's why I like using rivets. I use countersunk rivets. Could you do hydroturf on regular rivets? Probably so. I don't think it'll be too much of a mound, very noticeable. But I'll go ahead and just do countersunk rivets. It kind of is a pain in the butt countersinking all the holes. They sell special drill bits that have a countersink bit on it too. They break pretty easy, the drill bit does, and they're hard to replace. So I'm just gonna drill all my holes, countersink them, and start riveting away. Alright, we got the floor installed, and it looks pretty decent. Still got a gap up here. That's just because the thing's built crooked. So that sucks, but ain't nothing little hydroturf wouldn't fix. So as far as this video is concerned, I'm done with it, because I mean, I don't want to get in detail about how to do a hydroturf. I mean, that stuff's pretty simple. I got videos on it too. But I will go ahead and show you the finished product. So go ahead and lay this hydroturf down, and I'll show you guys what it looks like at the end. All right, dudes, finished project. I think it turned out pretty nice. Had enough hydroturf left over. I went ahead and did the little back pods and the front deck, and the little T in the back. I didn't like how it looked. It just was worn out paint, just bare aluminum. So I went ahead and put some Hercules liner on the bottom of it, kind of like your truck bed liner. And then I painted it with some paint that I had laying around, kind of match, and just ties it in a little bit better. And I think it turned out pretty good. I said, I hope this video helped some of you guys, had any kind of questions about flooring in boats. It's not really that big of a deal. Like I said, the hardest part, if you're doing aluminum, is breaking off that money to buy it and maybe finding the aluminum. Like I said, there's always some cheat codes in there, like if you can find a sign big enough that covers your whole floor, or, you know, minimal splicing, go ahead and do that. And, you know, if you can't do it, you know, there's nothing wrong with wood. It just won't last as long. Don't worry about what anybody says. I mean, boats are recreational tools. They're to have fun with, get you out on the water, do whatever you can do to go ahead and get out on the water. The worst thing you can do is have something sitting around that you're throwing a lot of money into that you're not enjoying. If you can't afford aluminum, or you can't get a hold of any right now, you know, throw you a sheet of plywood in there and enjoy your boat. That's the main thing. All right, guys, I appreciate you watching. I'm getting really close on this boat behind me. Hopefully have that video out next week. A lot of editing to do, trying to make it a start to finish, like I said previously. But as of right now, I'm not done, and I already have like an hour's worth of video, and I'm not going to put an hour-long video out. So we'll see how much we can chop into it. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one.